welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for this morning. As we mentioned earlier in the show, we are diverting from what is typically Fun Friday because there are important topics to be discussed. And one of the things that we saw earlier this week was the signing of a declaration of former foreign ministers promoting a yes vote to the ICJ. Visibly missing from that declaration and the signing was Senator Eamon Courtenay, a former Foreign Affairs Minister himself. And he's with us today to talk about this and much more. Good morning.
Morning, Marlene. Good morning, Kevin.
Morning. Morning to you.
So, I suppose the first question that everyone would like answered is, why were you not a part of the signing of the declaration? We know you were invited and you denied the request.
Well, as I have said, I thought it was a circus. I thought it was a publicity stunt. I thought that the Belizean people deserved something better than that. It is ridiculous for those gentlemen to go on the stage and sign this document and pretend that they were showing unity, pretending that if they were serious and sincere in what they were doing. And sorry to Lisa, gentlemen and lady. I think that if we are talking about national unity, and you are aware of this because I have been on this show repeatedly calling for a national effort on this issue, a national effort on relations with Belize, Guatemala, on the Sarstoon, on Chiquibull, etc. Belizean people don't want a one-day show of national unity. Where are these gentlemen and lady now? Are they a part of the education campaign? Where's their unity going forward? I believe that if we have a balanced, well-resourced education campaign followed by a persuasion campaign, those who want to persuade people to yes or to no, then it is time for us to do that on a national basis. Not go on a stage for one day, smile before the cameras, pretend that we're all friends and family, when in fact that is not so. Let me just say this. This document, has it been disseminated to people?
Yes.
It's public.
It's public. Has it been disseminated? Do the people in the cane fields, in the orange orchards, do the people in the schools have copies of this? Has it been explained to them? It was a stunt and nothing more than that.
Were you asked to join in on this declaration to support a yes vote?
Let me tell you, I received an email from Said Musa in October saying that Asad Shoman is proposing that the former foreign ministers who are alive should correct the misinformation that is out there. That is what I received an email. And I immediately emailed Prime Minister Musa back and told him, hell no. I said, I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to be a part of it because, as far as I'm concerned, we should have been doing this for the last 10 years. This was just going to be one thing that was going to be designed to separate us from Wilfred Errington. Nobody wanted to be a part of Wilfred Errington, the current foreign minister, to be a part of this. I'm not about that. I'm about us having a national effort, a serious national effort on this issue, on whole Belize, Guatemala, on the ICJ, and all of this. Don't tell me that because Assad was getting annoyed at these things that he was going around and people were putting questions to him, and according to him, the people who were on the panel with him were saying things that are not true, and so he wanted to correct things, and so we should sign this. This thing, for example, as far as I'm concerned, misrepresents things, overstates things, and misleads the Belizean public. So when I saw this on Wednesday, I would certainly never have agreed to even sign that, much less go on the stage.
What about the declaration do you feel is misleading?
Paragraph 4 implies, right, that unless you solve this dispute by going to the ICJ, we will have a problem with continued incursions, criminal activity on the border, etc.
That Guatemala will continue to impose its claim?
Not that it's going to impose its claim, that Guatemala will not stop their people from coming across the border. That if we get to the ICJ and we resolve this, the implication is all of that is going to stop. I don't believe it for a second, and I don't think that that is true. The reality on the ground is that people are coming across the border for opportunity. People are coming across the border because they're oppressed and being chased off the land in Guatemala. If the ICJ were to declare that our border is as it is today, it will make no difference to the people in the border areas. They will not know the result of the ICJ decision. They will not understand the result of the ICJ decision. And I do not accept that they would stop coming across. The criminal activity that is taking place with arms, with trafficking in arms, in drugs and people would continue even though there is a border there.
But
so let me just say this.
to be fair though, Article 4 does not explicitly say that it will end the illegal entry.
I said it implies, listen to what I said, it implies that this will stop if we go to the ICJ and the border is delineated and demarcated. You will recall, right, in the 2000s, early 2000s, we were successful in getting Santa Rosa removed. We were successful in getting everybody who was more than 1 kilometer into Belize illegally out. I am saying to you that we do not need the ICJ to rule on this issue to protect and defend the integrity of our borders. FCD is out there with insufficient support of this government. The BDF is out there with insufficient support of the government. If they are properly resourced and prepared, we can go out there and deal with the illegality that is taking place on our borders. And I am saying to you, we don't need the ICJ to resolve that issue.
I wanna, because there's a lot that I want to ask you about the declaration itself and what you're saying is it implies. But before that, the most critical question here is, does your absence mean that you support a no to the ICJ?
I have never articulated a yes or no to the ICJ publicly. And let me just put it to you very clearly. My preferred position, and all those people who have been involved in this process know that I have been the sole voice who have articulated this position, and I have not been successful in persuading people of it. My position is that we should adopt the process that Australia and Timor-Leste have adopted. There is a maritime dispute between Australia and Timor-Leste. They have tried to negotiate a settlement of it for many years, unsuccessfully. What have they done? They have signed an agreement, a treaty, that says, 1, we will not attempt to resolve this dispute. 2, we are going to recognize, without prejudice, certain territories. You're saying this is your maritime space, I'm saying that is your maritime space. We recognize it, we will go in there and exploit it for hydrocarbons, and we will share the results, the proceeds. 2, we will go in there and protect the environment, etc. After a period of time, we will then start again to see whether we can negotiate a settlement. Bring that to Belize. My belief is that we should agree with Guatemala for a minimum of 25 years, that there will be no attempt to resolve the territorial dispute. There will be no negotiations unless Guatemala is prepared to accept our borders. In the meantime, we have to sign a defense non-aggression pact. We have to sign and implement a treaty that protects the environment, that fights crime, that fights immigration, illegal immigration, etc. You will recall 2 years ago they signed 13 agreements between Belize and Guatemala. Why haven't we implemented that? And I am suggesting, Marlene, that my position is, let us put to one side the dispute. Let's live as neighbors. And I believe that another generation who have lived together without aggression, without educating people about, Belize es nuestro, we can resolve this by negotiation. That is my view. No. Finally, we now have an agreement between the two countries to submit the dispute to the ICJ if the people approve it. Insofar as Belize is concerned, at this stage and at this time, my position is that based on the poor, incompetent, and negligent management of Belize-Guatemala relations, the biased, underfunded, implemented education campaign, and the lack of information, which I want to discuss, lack of information.
But before we get to all of that,
I am saying, let me
if
finish.
you would put
Let
forward
me
a
finish.
position, if you put forward a position now as an alternative to going to the ICJ, the first question any person will have is, you were at the helm. You were foreign minister. You had the position, the capacity to be able to introduce an alternative when you held that post.
I don't think
Why
you're
not then?
I don't think you're listening to me. I said, whilst I was in the process, I argued endlessly for my position. But my government, Prime Minister Musa, call him right now and ask him. Call Stuart Leslie. Call Ambassador Murphy. Call Assad. That has always been my position, and I argued for it. I was outnumbered and outvoted. And we went into the 2005-2007 process, and we ended up at the ICJ. So to be clear, I have been consistent in advocating that model.
Can you explain to us why you don't feel that getting a resolution at the ICJ is the best option?
I am saying
if
to
you had an alternative to the ICJ, it meant that for some reason you did not trust, did not have faith, or did not think that at that time it was the best solution.
First of all, what is the cost of going to the ICJ?
Far more than we can pay.
You heard what she said?
That's my assumption.
So how is it that we can set off on a course to go to the ICJ? And if the people say yes, the special agreement triggers the process in 30 days after that. In 1 year, Guatemala has to file. In 1 year after that, Belize has to file. And Marlene is saying, but as far as she's aware, we probably can't afford it.
But it doesn't mean that we can't access international funding.
Let's get serious. These people are not even financing the education campaign. And I can tell you as a matter of fact, there is no other country out there who is going to fund our legal case. And I go further. I will not be happy depending on the charity of any other country to fund a legal case for Belize to go to the ICJ. If we cannot afford it, we should not do it. When we were in government, the estimate, over 10 years ago, the estimate that was given to us was a minimum of $20 million. You hear what I'm saying? An estimate of $20 million. And I'm saying to you, if we are not prepared to budget enough money for the BDF, for immigration, for police, to defend our borders today, where are we going to get this $20 million? Are we prepared to put in the budget that is going to be passed in March of this year a line item of $20 million for this fight, if the people say yes? I mean, I'm being serious. I think the Belizean people, first of all, Marlene, need to know what the cost is. I think the Belizean people need to know who are the lawyers who are going to advise and represent Belize. Their names, their CVs. We want them to come to Belize and have exchanges and interviews and discussions with them. Beyond that, go to the ICJ website and pull up any case and look at the amount of experts and advisors that support the legal, the attorneys. Who are the experts? Who are the archivists? Who are the geographers? Who are the cartographers? Who are the research assistants, etc., that would form Belize's team? We need to know those people. We need to know that they have been engaged. We need to know that they are experts and experienced at doing this. The Belizean people have been presented with a legal opinion from Elilota Park and others. It's dated January 2002. January 2002. I think we are entitled to an update. The law has changed. Hold on, Marlene. The law has changed, and unless and until we see an updated legal opinion taking into account whatever has happened between 2002 and 2018, I say we are not yet fully informed. More importantly, the maritime areas. That opinion from 2002 did not give us an opinion on the maritime areas. We need, and I don't know if the government has one because I haven't seen it, we need a legal opinion on what the likely result is going to be in the maritime area. Let us not forget, it will involve Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras. Where is the legal opinion from advisors who have said to us, because trust me, Honduras is going to join this case if it goes to the ICJ. Where is the legal opinion that says to us that if we go to the ICJ, this is the likely result in the maritime areas? In article paragraph 6 of this declaration that they have signed, they are saying that they are entirely certain that there is no likelihood of Belize losing any territory, whether terrestrial or maritime. Well, I invite those people who were there to present us with a legal opinion from recognized and respected international lawyers who have said that they are certain and they're giving the Belizean people certainty that we will lose no territory, whether it be maritime or territorial. And I am serious, Marlene, because this, you see, you have a different view on this than I do. And I am saying to you...
I have no opinion on this,
yes,
but I want to follow up on it because you are an attorney, you're an esteemed attorney, and one of the criticisms of the education process and some of the statements that have been made by various members of the government is that we have been claiming a solid case, that there is absolutely no way Belize can lose anything in this process if we go to the ICJ. And this is simply a continuation of that very same rhetoric.
And I like the choice of your word, rhetoric. The 2002 legal opinion from our advisors said that we have a strong case. And I believe that based on the 1859 treaty, etc., self-determination and so on and so forth, Belize has a strong case. I want, one, an update from 2002 to now. I have not, and I repeat, and I don't know that we have one, a legal opinion on the maritime. Because let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. Every time there has been an attempt to negotiate this issue, it is in the southern waters of Belize that there is talk of maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. And we know, you are a scholar, you are a lawyer, and you know when it comes to the law of the sea, when it comes to territorial law, the law is more flexible when it comes to the law of the sea. The point I make is this: Belizeans should be told in clear terms what the legal advisors are saying with respect to the maritime areas and what the likely result is going to be before there's any referendum in Belize. And I am saying to you that no self-respecting lawyer can say that they are certain what is going to happen if Belize goes to the ICJ. And in fact, as you know, Kevin, it is prohibited by our code of conduct as attorneys to exaggerate the outcome of a case and to tell clients, I am certain that you're going to win a case. It is wrong for them to have done it.
Senator Ancino, the first thing is that possibly they were not speaking in a legal capacity, they were speaking in their political capacities because they represented not necessarily themselves as lawyers, but themselves as former foreign ministers. But
hold on.
That was just
No, but it's important because I want to invite you and Marlene to do something.
Yes.
You say they were speaking in a political, former foreign minister's capacity.
Yes.
Then let's do this. After the show is finished, let us call up the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and find out who are the legal advisors for Belize right now. And we're going to send them paragraph 6 and ask the lawyers who are representing Belize to sign their name to say to the Belizean people that they are certain that we will lose no terrestrial territory and no maritime territory. You agree? Let's get the lawyers to sign off and say that they are certain that we will not lose any territory.
And they probably wouldn't because...
No, probably. They won't.
They
You
will
know
not.
that they won't. So don't tell the Belizean people this.
Yes, but I guess my question is, firstly, as Marlene was asking, that this declaration is an extension of a trajectory that our leaders have been on from a very long time ago. My first question is, one of the things that you were critical of a moment ago was the special agreement. Were you part of preparing that special agreement?
Well, I wasn't criticizing. I mean, and if
Well,
you
not
understood me
criticizing, but
or critical of the no. Yes, I was a part of the team that negotiated with the advice of lawyers the special agreement.
And the second question was...
And I have no difficulty with the language in the special agreement because the many questions that I had were answered by experts to my satisfaction.
No, I'll tell you what my issue was watching your response to the ceremonialities. And being an attorney, I do appreciate some ceremoniality. The opening of the Supreme Court will be Monday, and there will be a circus of attorneys there. It makes no sense. But there is a value to it. As a political leader, there are certain things that you have to do as part of your responsibility to sort of try to lead, whether or not you lead in the right direction or the wrong direction. So my issue was that in the language that you use, I don't know if you regret using the language.
Absolutely not.
But my concern was whether or not you were concerned that with less than 10 weeks left, that you became the story in terms of, no, the problem is that rather than, because there were options that you had, of not saying anything or probably choosing another way of saying it, that no, the narrative is that there is a fight between one foreign minister and 4 foreign ministers, so that the real issue of whether or not, because we have a pending referendum coming up, and after listening to your response, which it was an honest one that you felt, I couldn't gather whether or not we should take that as going yes to the ICJ or no to the ICJ. And so would you agree that it's almost sort of like a distraction to the issue as to whether or not we should go?
And that is why I'm here. And trust me, you know me. I would not have been silent. And I had told people that between January and April 10th, I would be speaking on this issue. I have written on it. And I have come here before Marlene and spoken on this, right? My intent on Wednesday, when I responded the way I responded to the media, and I'm happy to repeat it because I believe it, is that what you had on Wednesday was just a show. And that is not what we need now. If, for example, Prime Minister Barrow and the former foreign ministers and the legal advisors, representatives of the churches, the chamber, the union, other experts, Herman Bird, etc., there was an announcement that we now have a broad-based, well-resourced team that has the following plan, that are going to educate the Belizean people, that are going to inform the Belizean people, that is across party lines and independent persons and persons who disagree. If that is what was going to take place on Wednesday, and that between now and April 10th, there is a plan of information, education, etc., then I would have looked at that as a sincere and genuine attempt at advancing this process. We had a photo opportunity and nothing more. And I'm not going to be a part of it, and I think it was ridiculous.
Now, in terms of, I was just researching to prepare for the show, and one of the things that popped up was your statements in the Wesley College seminar, where you were addressing the gathering and saying, listen, one of the things that are presupposed is that Belize wants a resolution to this claim. And the only way to get a resolution to this claim is to go to court. If you don't want a resolution, your exact words were, then don't go to court. And you were happy you had, in fact, identified the ending of negotiations. And you said you were very happy that the negotiations had failed, not for any malicious reason, but that we'd been able to retain every single square inch. the essence of what you were saying there is that we need to go to court.
No.
If
And
we
that's
want
not what you see.
if we want a resolution,
Aha.
we have to go to court.
Right.
Yes. And so the essence of what this declaration is saying is let's go to court.
Oh, Kevin,
so there's no fundamental difference
Kevin.
between what you were saying there and what is in the declaration.
Kevin.
Is that correct?
Kevin, the context is important. And what I said to you this morning, Eamon Courtenay's personal view is that the primary issue is not the resolution of the dispute, but the protecting and defending the integrity of our border. Yes?
Yes.
When you go to cabinet, when you go to a negotiating team, etc., people have varying views and you argue. At the end, a decision is taken by the Prime Minister or the leader of the negotiating team and you live with it. Yes? And I was very clear what I said at Wesley Church. I said, if you want a resolution, the only way the parties have signed off on a special agreement, the only way is to go to court. That's all I said, and I maintain, right now as between the parties, that is the position. If you want a resolution of the dispute, the only thing the parties have on the table is to go to court.
Can I
now,
ask this?
one point. Suppose the Belizean people on April 10th vote and it's a no. Then what?
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister answered that question.
What?
He did. He said.
They'll have to find another solution.
He did.
So, the only way of resolving this is not going to court.
Why would you say that? The only way to resolve it is not to go to court.
Because, Marlene, what is it that needs to be resolved? Whether or not our territory is intact, right? I do not accept, and I don't want to dwell on this and repeat myself, I do not accept that in 2018 or 2019 or 2020, I need the ICJ to tell me that your borders are as you have always known them. The only country in the world that needs that to be told is Guatemala. And I think that we need to focus, and I've said this to you on this show before, that there are more important things that are happening in Belize and that are happening in the southern waters of Belize. For example, the SAR stone.
Senator, and I know you feel that you're repeating yourself. I just want to be absolutely clear on what we're hearing you say. In saying that we do not need the court to resolve this issue, in saying that we do have borders intact, it is very much the same information that is coming out from those who are proposing a no vote.
Yep.
That we don't need to have anyone else validate what we know is ours. That we don't need to resolve this issue.
And
So it would appear that you're aligning yourself with a no vote.
That's to the common man. You're speaking with the common man in the cane field.
It's the same thing in very different in different words.
well, you can interpret it whatever way you wish. I can only try to explain to you what my position is. Yes? And I repeat, if I had my way, I would be negotiating with Guatemala
A deep freeze.
a deep freeze. I would be negotiating with Guatemala that let us put off any time attempt to settle and let's try to live as neighbors and to do the things that I have already described. And in 2050, if we have not been able then to start negotiating then a resolution of a treaty, we decide then and there whether we want that generation of Belizeans to say, listen, we have been living together for so long, we have been living great, we have children are coming across, etc., etc. Guess what? I don't care. We will live as neighbors without resolving this dispute. Virtually every country in the Americas live as neighbors with territorial disputes, right? And I'm saying to you, if the Belizeans go to the polls on April 10th, I will not convince them or attempt to convince them to vote yes unless certain things are done. One, there must be an update to the legal opinion. Two, there must be a legal opinion on the maritime issue. Three, we must know who our lawyers are and we must be satisfied that there is a team that is being paid and fully paid. who are the support persons, what are they doing, who they are, and that they are ready to go. More importantly, we need to amend the Referendum Act to make the result binding and that no government can say, I do not accept the result. We need to amend the Maritime Areas Act to ensure that we do not lose any maritime, or put it the other way, that we claim the maximum that we're entitled to under the law of the sea.
Those things will not happen, though, Senator. So you're telling people vote no? That can happen in 10 weeks.
Can I continue?
Sure.
I am saying we should amend the Representation of the People's Act to allow Belizeans in the diaspora to vote. Now let me bring up two important issues. Two important issues. Hold on.
I'm just saying you're introducing a whole different issue now when we start talking about including the diaspora. But we'll try to touch on that before the end of the show.
I am saying to you, without fear of contradiction, that we cannot have the referendum on the 10th of April 2009 without amending the Representation of the People's Act and promulgating regulations to hold that referendum. Hold on. Listen carefully. Put your mind at April 10th. Who is going to be in the polling stations overseeing the vote?
Elections and Boundaries Commission?
Who is going to oversee it?
What
Who
do you
is
mean?
going to, okay, every election, the PUP nominates a polling agent, the UDP nominates a polling agent, independent candidates or other parties nominate agents. And they oversee what the election and boundaries officers are doing. Yes? And if anything is going wrong, then shout and scream and
Yes.
stop it. That is designed to maintain the integrity of the process.
Yes.
How is that going to happen on April 10th? There is no provision in the Representation of the People's Act for the appointment of polling agents where a referendum is being held, apart from a general election. More importantly, hold on. Don't underestimate what I'm saying. Who is going to oversee the counting of the ballots? When an election is held, you're shaking your head, Kevin, but I'm telling you something. Listen carefully.
I'm following.
When an election is held, the candidates appoint their people to go there and fight over the ballots. There is no provision right now in the law for who is going to argue over the ballots, whether it is yes or no, and it's a valid ballot. And why do I emphasize this? There was a municipal election in San Pedro, and we had sworn testimony in the court, Supreme Court of Chief Justice Benjamin, that the Representation of the People's Act was violated on multiple times. The box was sealed, and after the scrutineers left, it was open. The returns, who say you get 10 votes and you get 12, was changed and say you get 9 and you get 13. The chief elections officer in sworn evidence said that when the box was brought from San Pedro to her office, she and her deputy locked themselves in her office and opened those ballot boxes and counted the ballots in the presence of no one. What is my point? My point is this. We have a Elections and Boundaries Commission and a system that has been shown to have weaknesses, and I do not trust that system based on what happened in San Pedro. And what is worse, there is no provision, and I want to know who is going to be in those polling booths and who is going to oversee the counting.
Well, I would imagine that of the wish list that you just outlined, that perhaps is one that can be addressed within the next 10 weeks. But I want to...
Can I tell you another one?
But I
Marlene,
think the more
you
important
say-
point here, though, is while the conditions that you've outlined, I'm sure there are people who are watching who may agree with you. We have to be focused on what is coming. The
Yes.
date has been set.
The date can be
3
changed.
months. The Prime Minister has made it clear he's not
But he is
postponing
not the king.
date. There
He's
is a
not the
decision
king.
to be made in 3 months.
I am saying to you, he's not the king. Date can be changed if there's good reason to change it. Can I say something to you, Marlene?
And
You see, we are
outside of your
trivializing these
or the
issues.
voice of some members of
We
the
are
opposition.
trivializing these issues. I want to raise something. Listen to me. There are Belizeans who were on the register of electors who, because of the re-registration exercise, are no longer on that register. There are Belizeans who qualify to be registered, who have applied to register. And because of the corruption in vital stats, their names do not appear on the new register. They have been disenfranchised. And I'm going to be political. Most of those persons are persons who have been taken in to the registration by the People's United Party. We cannot, we should not have a referendum with persons who have applied to register and who would therefore be entitled to vote in the referendum, and whose applications and registration is being frustrated by political operatives in the Vital Statistics Department, and therefore disenfranchise those persons. And at the same time, have persons of Guatemalan nationality who did not qualify on the voters list. Something is fundamentally wrong with that, and I will say to you, I don't care how many times you say it to me, it is wrong for us to have a referendum on the 10th of April 2019 where Belizeans are disenfranchised and Guatemalans who have not properly and legally renounced their nationality are going to vote. It is wrong.
I hear your point, but I want to ask you this much. It's been put out by the PUP, by different representatives, that it should be postponed. Let's just move ahead and say that the date is not changed. It's April 9th.
10th.
No, the day before the referendum.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
the day before people will make this decision. There are quite a number of people in this country who are undecided, who are relying on leaders, on people who've been a part of this process, who want to trust what is being told to them. You were once the foreign minister of this country. You represented all of us. It's April 9th, the day before the referendum. What is your message to Belizeans?
If I don't have a updated legal opinion, if I don't have a legal opinion on what the risk is in the maritime area, if I'm not satisfied with the team of attorneys and experts that are advising them, I will vote no. And if anybody asks me, I will say to them, I am not satisfied that, one, we have sufficient information and we are confident enough to say, let's take this risk. My appeal is to say, let's pause. Hold on. What's the rush?
No.
Hold on. Let us do this right. Let us get everybody who is entitled to vote to vote. Let us get the proper information. Let us have the right resources. Are you satisfied with the education campaign that has gone on so far? Are you satisfied?
I think that in answering your question, I'd like to ask you a question in terms of, I'm going almost on the same trajectory, because Belize looks up to persons like yourself, like Lisa Schumann, like Assad Schumann, like our Prime Minister, like the esteemed Godfrey Smith, who is loved by Belize. Now, the average person, as you were referring to, when you were referring to the declaration and them getting it, the average person, as Marlene was saying, ought not to be confused. And that is my concern as a Belizean patriot. When I listen to you, I want clarity. And not clarity as an attorney, but clarity as a lay person who is driving a taxi and watching Open Your Eyes this morning.
Right.
When we listen to the different positions, it is confusing. Let me outline it. We have the foreign ministers, for past PUP foreign ministers and the current UDP prime minister saying yes, hell yes. We have the PUP officially saying hell no. The official position of the PUP as issued by press release is go and vote, and when you go and vote, vote no. Your position, and you are high-ranking, probably one of the most powerful PUPs in...
Don't humor me on national
No,
TV.
no. Honestly, you are one of the most powerful PUPs. And as I understood in the shadow cabinet, you probably would be the foreign minister. In that context, you are saying, as a very strong PUP voice and a respected legal mind, you're saying, listen, let's postpone, which is a position taken as well by Francis Fonseca in a recent article that he just did. My question is, aren't you concerned that it creates a bit of confusion, not only within your party, but to the general public and the common man to say, what exactly is the position of Mr. Courtney?
The position of Mr. Courtney
Is either yes or a no.
No, the position of Mr. Courtney is that we should hold the referendum when we have educated and informed the Belizean people of the consequences of a yes vote and the consequences of a no vote, where we have sufficient and proper and adequate professional advice as to the risks, and we are prepared by law to hold the referendum, to have the people who are entitled to vote, that the entire menu of things that need to be done are completed and ready. I do not accept, Kevin, and you cannot convince me, Kevin, that the 10th of April 2019 is a magical date that cannot be changed. There are things that need to be done, and the Belizean people are entitled for this thing to be done properly.
Do you appreciate that none of the forces that could change that date are indicating that date will be changed? Neither the PUP, the opposition, the powerful opposition, nor the government, nor any of the foreign ministers, nor non-operatives, nor none of anybody is talking about changing the date, save and except for yourself and Mr. Francis Fonseca. No one else is proposing that.
So be it.
And therefore, it probably will not be
So
changed.
be it. And so I am saying to you,
my landing question is this, Senator. Knowing that it will not be changed based on all those indications, because you have to make an intelligent guess. This is what you do daily. You advise your client accurately that when you go to court, you don't know what it is. But you're sure that, most likelihood, the judge will hear this case on this day. We have to be prepared. That on those unchangeable positions, not on the possibility of being changed, that you know you have to go and vote, and that there are only two things you can vote, either say or no. What then is the position now?
I am saying to you,
with
and I'm repeating,
the condensed position.
I'm saying to you, if you go on the 10th and vote, and prior to that, you have not seen a legal opinion that tells you what the risk is in the maritime area, you should vote no. Why should you take a risk without adequate information as to what is likely to happen in the South?
I agree.
Why should you vote yes if you don't have an opinion from whoever the legal advisors are that says, listen, what was said in 2002 legal opinion, we have looked at all the cases, all arbitrations, international arbitration, boundary disputes, etc. The position is still the same, or in fact it has gotten stronger. Yes? I am saying that these are things that we need to know, that the Belizean voter needs to know and to calculate. And I'm saying to you again, Marlene, if you want to vote no, it is not that the Prime Minister said we will have to develop a plan. What is the plan? You must be satisfied in your mind that your conscience is clear, that you vote no, and I know that the consequence of a no vote is X, and we have a plan to deal with it. You must vote yes, knowing that the consequence of us going to the ICJ, these are the risks, and we have a plan to deal with it. And until we have both of those explained to the Belizean people across this country, why are we going headlong on April 10th, 2019 for a date with destiny where we don't know what the result is going to be? This is a true country we're dealing with, you know. You give the analogy of advice I would give to a client. I have on my desk right now a territorial dispute between two landowners, boundary dispute. And I'm saying to my client, we need a surveyor. I don't care what happens. We cannot go to court and win unless I have a surveyor who says, Mr. Courtney, this is how the boundary go. We cannot go to the ICJ without a legal opinion that is telling us this is a likely result in the maritime areas. And I'm saying to the government, if you have it, then share it. Let us see it and make up our minds.
Would you concede that most likely in 10 weeks we'd not be able to get an updated legal opinion?
Postpone.
I don't know that that is so. My understanding is that they have already identified the people who are the legal advisors. If they are expert on international law, if they are practitioners in international law, they will know the major cases on boundary disputes between 2002 and today, and they can issue an opinion.
My final question,
let me get one more before. You spoke of Belizeans being entitled to having the legal opinion and quite a number of other things. Belizeans are also entitled to understand where your position comes from. And in this country where the political divide is so deep, it's often seen that the opposition essentially opposes for opposition's sake. What do you say to Belizeans who may view what you're saying as simply not wanting to go along with the current administration because they're UDP?
And I'm saying to you that if we get a legal opinion updated, a legal opinion that is dealing with the maritime and that tells us that the risk is minimal, that we are likely to win and there is no problem. If we are saying we have the 20 million or 30 million, whatever it's going to cost, we have it budgeted, we have the law in place for a proper referendum to be held, etc., etc., then my position is likely to be Belizeans, we are ready. You want to have this resolved? Vote yes with confidence. But if those things are not there, I cannot in a clear conscience say to Belizeans that we should go ahead headlong into this, rushing, and say, why am I going to take a risk and see what happens?
My final question, Senator, is that one of the greatest disappointments for Belizeans, the greatest angst.
And just to, sorry, let me interrupt you. I just want to say, as you are aware, I have a history of working with the opposition, the UDP, over the years. So
you were also on the negotiating team.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's not an issue for me. I know how much Sedi loves me. I know Mr. Barrow loves me even more. But you know, when one has to do your duty, you do your duty. The feeling is mutual, by the way.
But one of the issues that Belizeans have had is in fact the name calling. We've been called crazy. The utterances that the cross insults between the yes votes and the no votes, between the common man and or foreign minister, between different people has been unacceptable when we need to have a unified position. I want to go back full circle from where we started. Don't you feel that by you calling, in essence, 3 of your colleagues and friends, or 4 of your colleagues and friends, you say 3 of your colleagues and friends, calling them clowns in a circus, cheap clowns in a circus, that it sort of adds to the same thing that Belizeans are trying to move away from.
You're trying to get an apology out of me or for me to change my view?
No. I'm trying to get Belizeans need some sort of symbol to be able to feel confidence. When you go into the doctor and you ask the doctor, Doc, I'm going to surgery, man. The doctor won't tell you, man, boy, my last surgery, I died, and that in fact, this is the case. There is, as a diplomat, because you're not only an attorney, a very good one of the best, but also you are a seasoned diplomat. Mm-hmm. And a diplomat knows how to say what. Mm-hmm. Tells you to go to hell, mm-hmm. and you look forward to the trip. Mm-hmm. Now, my question, in addition to that, is, are you concerned? Because one of the concerns that have been voiced by the People's United Party and by common-minded Belizeans is that the international community is listening. And by calling your colleagues from 1981 to now, foreign ministers calling them clones, seems to send a message to the world that we're just not in a place where we are able to properly put ourselves before a court. Would you, and I think you would frame it as an apology, but would you have chosen different words because of the impact that it has on the international?
No, I think it was a stunt. I repeat it, and I will not withdraw it. But I want to say this. Again, another important point, right? Assad Shoman, 2 years ago, confirm it with him. 2 years ago, Assad agreed with me that there is a provision in the Guatemalan Constitution, Article 19 of the transitory provisions, which in effect gives to the executive, the presidency of Guatemala, the power to implement the result of an ICJ decision. Assad agreed with me that that must come out of the Guatemalan Constitution before we go to any ICJ or we do anything further. I'm saying to the Belizeans, Google the Guatemalan Constitution, look at Article 19 of the transitory provisions. We need to get the Guatemalans to remove that provision, because if Belizeans vote yes and we go to the ICJ and Guatemala loses, whoever is then the president has the power to say, I know they implement it. And if you think that that is not a real prospect, look at cases at the ICJ, losing countries who say they are not going to implement it. And in the case of Guatemala, the president will say, my constitution gives me the power not to implement it. Do not trivialize these things. Guatemala has a history, continuous and unbroken history of acting dishonorably when it comes to Belize. And I would not expect them to act any differently if they lost at the ICJ. Our foreign minister should ensure that we have a SASTUN protocol before April 10th, that Article 19 of the Constitution of Guatemala, of the transitory provisions, is repealed before Belizeans go to the polls on the 10th of April 2019. And if it is not, then we should postpone it until these things are done.
Okay.
And trust me, going on a stage on Wednesday and taking a picture in some pretty clothes is not going to change my mind.
All right. Well, Senator Courtney, thank you for coming in and having this discussion with us.
It was a pleasure as usual, Marlene.
We will take a break, and when we come back, it's for Grace, Flavor with a Beat. So stay tuned.